Page 8, Sheep May Safely Graze. This is another very famous melody from Bach. There are a number of piano arrangements of this available. I have one by Petri, P-E-T-R-I, arranged by Petri. I'm going to learn it probably next year and play it for the piano club. It's gorgeous. You can find recordings of it on YouTube all over the place. It's actually a choral piece, but there's a lot of piano solo arrangements of it available. It's very pretty. It's kind of similar to the previous piece we had in this book in that there's two different melodies and they alternate between them, sort of. And that's what we're going to find out here. At the beginning in the right hand. Now it says cut time, but for the purpose of learning it, I'm going to revert that to 4/4 time. And we'll put it back in cut time later. So right now, we'll just think 4/4 time. So here it's like 1, 2, 3. The melody's the top note if you can bring it out. And the fingering at the beginning is fine. You can just finger. You're going to move around quite a bit here, so be prepared for that. The pedal will help connect the notes some, but I'll talk about the fingering. So, second line, last two measures, the right hand, we're here. I recommend the last measure you do a 1/4 and then a 2/5. You know, the whole chord is this. That's how I'm fingering it. So it's just 1/4, 2/5. And then the next measure, it's a 4. And you can actually lift up there because it's a phrase, but I'll get to that later. But it's 4 and then 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3. Third measure, third finger on the half note. And then here, if you want to, you can reach up and use second finger on that. This is the last line on page 8. You can use second finger on that C. That way you can reach up and get third finger on the E. They want you to use third finger on both. I find that awkward to do that. I would rather use second finger on the E and then just reach up. See, the third measure over, they want you to do that. Second finger and then reach up with third. Well, do it on the first measure. Page 9, you're down here. You got time to move. The pedal's going to help you out, and it's a different phrase, so you're going to lift up. You want silence there anyway. I'll get to the pedal in a little bit. So you're here, just lift up and move. And this is the second melody. Here, it's a long drawn out melody like we had before. This is what we want to hear. Now, second line. Look at the fingering they're suggesting here. The second on the E, and then thumb, cross over for the 2, and now they want you to come up here to the E, up here. So I suggest for this second line, rather than second finger on the E, that you put thumb on that. So you're coming off from the last measure of the first line here. I suggest thumb on that. You can, if you want, play it with second and then substitute thumb for it. And then cross over 2 and thumb again. Now you're closer to that E you need. You might still have to jump a little bit, but not as far. And that's what I recommend there. Third line down. Here. You're just going to move. The pedal's going to connect it. That's okay. Just move down. We have to remember this is not really piano music, so we do the best we can. And then in the fourth measure over there is the fifth measure. The last two measures of that line. It starts with a thumb. You got a half rest. You can do that. And then a B flat. Last line thumb. And that's tied. And then you go on. And then again, 1/5, 1/4, and then 3. I want to connect the melody. Here, top of page 10, they're saying fourth finger. If it has a 1 in parentheses, I'll come back to that. Just keep it in mind. Right now, fourth finger, or if you'd rather, you can go ahead and play it with third finger. It's your choice, because the 8th note needs to be third finger. you're going to repeat. They're telling you to repeat. Isn't that nice of them? Just repeat. And this is where the thumb comes in. When you repeat it, you can play that first note on the page with thumb, because the thumb is there. It would be awkward to play it with fourth finger after playing here. There's no point in it. So just play it with thumb on the repeat, and then third finger on the eighth note. And you're good to go until the second line. You're here. And I recommend on the fourth measure for the whole note, instead of 1, 2, I recommend a 1, 3. And then for the next measure, play the C with fourth finger. And then in the last measure of that line, play that C with fifth finger. Because now you're in position to go on. And that's really, if you do this, third finger on those C's, then you got to come down with third finger again. We don't need to do that. So the last three measures of the second line is 1, 3, to a 4, to a 5. And then you're ready. Now, a little bit about this third line, second measure down here. 1, 3, 2, 4, and then the next one is 1, 3 again. You need to be able to do that. You may have to practice a little bit. You gotta look down at the piano for it. That's okay, but it's a good fingering. And then reach down to 1, 3 again. Now you can do a 1, 2 on the half note. This is the fourth measure over. You can do a 1, 2 if you want, and then use 3 on the quarter note. Because in the last measure of that line, I recommend a 1, 2, because it's easier to reach the half note. And then for the fourth line down, the half notes, I recommend a 1, 4, 2, 5. We've had this before. And then a fourth finger, and then third finger for the eighth notes. Just like it's marked, that's fine. And the rest of it's just like it's written, it's fun. You move around a little bit, this is kind of neat. For the left hand has to be really soft, subdued, because what we want to hear is all in the right hand. So, the beginning, you're playing this C chord, and you're holding it down forever because it's tied. So it's like it's tied for 8 counts. A lot of the first 2 lines, it's like it's tied all over the place. And that's all you're doing, because all the good action is in the right hand. And then when you get down to the third line, they're saying 1, 3 here. I suggest 1, 2. I should say 2, 1, the bottom note first. 2, 1. The next measure is 3, 1. Then 4, 1. And then 5, 1. And then in the next line, a 5, 1 again. See, the way they're doing it, you're doing 5, 1 for several measures, or a few measures, or 3 measures, or whatever. You don't need to. You can use these other fingers. If you start with a 2, 1. Last line, 5, 1, there, it's fine if that's what you want to do. I would do a 4, 1 for the third measure of the last line, because the little finger's on the G, and then going on is, and 2, 1's fine. And the top of page 8, coming down. For the third measure over. And then for the CG, I recommend a 4, 1, not 5, 1, because I need a fifth finger for the next measure. And then the second line, you can do 5, 3. That's okay. And then the next measure, quarter notes is fine. Got an F sharp, and then a 5, 1. And for the last chords in that line, I recommend a 4, 1. And then next line, 3, 1, 4, 1, and then for the whole note, 4, 2. You have to take a pencil and pencil all this in, but you can watch this video over and over until you get it. Going on, thumb, fourth finger, crunch up, and then I recommend last line 4, 4, 2, 1. Because we were here, now we're coming to here, and for the third measure over, you got to come down here. So if you use fourth finger there, your hand doesn't have to move as much. Third measure over, and then just like they've got 2-1. Top of page 10, they're saying 1-3, it's fine. And then 3. Just like it's written, it's good. Now, the first line on page 10, the last measure, 5, or it starts with a 4, then a 5, and then the next line is a 2-1. That's good, I like that. And then next measure, I would do a 5-2, because I don't have to move so much. And then you're back to those whole notes. Now on the fourth line down, when you get to the whole notes in the second measure, again I recommend a 2-1, not 3-1. This is the same fingering we had before. It's 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 5-1, blah blah blah, until you get down to the last measure and at the bottom. Let's take the last 2 measures. You're here and then here, and I recommend, if you can, a 3-2. But otherwise, it's a 2-1. It's your choice, whichever. I like connecting the notes. Dynamic wise, it starts out soft, and that's the melody. That's the top. That's soft. Everything else has to be under it. This is a very gentle piece here. So just keep it down. Now at the end of the second line, there's a crescendo where you can go up to medium loud. So here's, depending on how loud your soft is, then and the third line, now you're medium loud. And the third line, third measure over, it's an echo of it, so it's soft. Then the next line, it's a statement, medium loud. Then it's an echo or a reply, it's soft. And then at the top of page 9, medium loud, because you have this other melody now. Now this crescendo at the top of page 9 here in the third measure, it's the left hand that has to do the crescendo because the right hand is holding on to a note and you can't crescendo a note. So it's the left. It gives the illusion of the right hand getting louder. It doesn't, though. Then come back down. The second measure, the second line, come back down. You're coming back down to a medium loud. This part is a little louder than page 8. It's a different melody. It's a different thing. So this is a little louder. Third line down, third and fourth measure, you're coming back down to a medium soft. Then at the bottom of the page, the last 2 measures, you're starting to crescendo again. So when you get to the page 10, now you're medium loud the first time. You see the MF-P? So the first time it's medium loud. And you're crescendoing, and then when you repeat, suddenly you're soft. So it's the whole 4 measure thing is a statement reply. The first time is the statement, and then the reply is soft. But again, crescendo up to a medium, you don't crescendo very much, just up to a medium soft. Now, I suggest, it's not written in here, but it's an interpretive thing. On this crescendo in the first line, I suggest you only crescendo on the repeat. You don't crescendo the first time. It doesn't make sense to me to be medium loud and then crescendo up to a loud and then suddenly drop down to a soft. So I suggest you just stay at a medium loud throughout that whole thing. And then it's soft second time. Now you can crescendo just up to a medium loud. You're not crescendoing very much, just up to a medium loud. Second line, you're back down to soft, like it was at the beginning. And then the fourth line down, you're crescendoing up to a medium soft. Not very much, just a... And then there's a retardando at the end and a decrescendo, so slow down and soften up a bit. Like so. That's the dynamics. We add the pedal because really this is a legato piece. It's not a piano piece. It's not a keyboard piece. It's a choral piece with a small band accompaniment type thing. So we add the pedal to help us connect everything. And it's legato pedal, and that's fine. You can pedal it pretty much like it's shown. We're going to use legato or overlapping pedal throughout. So I'm going to push the notes down first and then the pedal. Each time I change it, I'm going to play the notes and then change the pedal. Phrasing in here, and you can do it with the hand and all. The pedal covers it all up, but you can still lift up with the phrasing with the hand. You do the technique for it whether you hear it or not. So the second line on page 9 is here. Now we're not pedaling the fourth or the next to the last measure. The second line, you notice with that quarter note, we don't want to smear these. We're not pedaling that measure. Recommend on the third line down and that fourth measure over where the right hand has a half rest that you change the pedal so we hear the half rest in the right hand. You can go ahead and pedal that note, just change it there. Don't hold the pedal down for the whole measure. So it's starting at the beginning of the third line there. So that F, that last F is by itself. Again, at the bottom of the page, I would change the pedal so the G is by itself. We lose the left hand. You can pedal the note, just change it so the G is not held on. It's just a half note. Top of page 10, we're here. The reason we're pedaling so much of this is we're letting the overtones go. Because if I could just as easily, like in the last two lines on page 10, starting with the second measure, I could do that without pedaling that at all. But it's a drier sound, a cleaner sound, and in this piece, the atmosphere, we want the overtones. We want that additional noise. and the pedal gives it to us. So we legato pedal all of this one. You learn this in 4/4 time, really slowly, and then once you have it, and you got the fingers and the fingering and all that working for you, you can put it back into cut time. Because typically the piece is not written with half notes and quarter notes, it's written with eighth notes and 16th notes and all kinds of wonderful things. So the cut time makes sense here because we want that pulse, that 2-beat pulse. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We want that 1, 2, 1, 2. So put it back in cut time, and once you get it, and then it'll work for you. Now, if you're going to play this for somebody, you have a page turn to deal with. What are you going to do with that? Well, you got to get it done in time because the beat can't stop. You can get somebody to turn the page for you, that works. Otherwise, we got to work out how are we going to get this page turned. Now, a couple of possibilities here. One is at the bottom of page 9, you have a whole note, the last 2 measures. In the right hand, you have a whole note, and then the 2 half notes. If you're quick about it, just memorize those 2 measures, and once you play that whole note, quickly turn the page. While the left hand plays that half note, there, and then you can go on if you can do it quickly. Otherwise, play the right hand, the whole right hand, and leave out the left hand in the last measure, and you got 2 beats there to use the left hand to turn the page. Because it's like there's no rests here that you can rely on. Now, if you want, you can memorize the first measure on page 10, this thing. Because the pedal is down, once you play it, you can use your left hand as your right hand is playing this to turn the page if you can do it quickly. And if you're too late with that, then you have to leave the left hand out until you get the page turned, and then the left hand can come back in wherever you are in the music, because the right hand's just going to keep going. You know, it may take you an extra measure, so the left hand may not be able to come in until the half note. Whatever it takes, but don't mess up the beat. Now with the play with me thingy, we're not going to do that. We're going to do pages 8 and 9 and stop. Turn the page, I'll count us in again. I'll give us another 4 counts, and then we'll come in. And yes, it's in cut time, so rather than just 2 counts, I'm going to give us 4 counts. 2 measures worth, I'm going to 1, 2, ready, go type thing, you know. So let's do this together very slowly. And we are going to do it in cut time though. So the metronome is going to beat half notes. So go ahead and put your hands where they go. Here, here. Foot's on the pedal. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Stop, turn the page, put your hands where they go. It's 4th finger to start in the right hand, and then when we repeat, you'll play this with the thumb. 1, 2, ready, go. 1,